today I want to show you something really cool that I learned how to do. And I started with a template that I got off of another site, but I have tried to make this my own. But I just want to share this little tip with you in case you don't already know. So, one of the things that I wanted to do was to convert some of my around the room activities that I had for kids to use into a digital version that you could assign to kids so they could still get the benefit of the activity even if they're not available for in-person learning right now. Um, and so what I basically did was create this activity where I put the things that I would have around the room, the cards that I would have around the room, on slides themselves. And then this slide that I'm showing right now is all of the answers. And so in the actual activity, the trendline scavenger hunt, or any of my scavenger hunt activities, what I tend to do is I give students in their group a set of the answer cards. So they have all of the answers. So the things that are posted around the room are not problems and answers. So that while the answers will, in a typical activity, drive the students from one part of the room to another part of the room, what this does is allows them to not necessarily bunch up all in one place. So they can go to any of the posted problems around the room and solve it and record it. And they don't necessarily have to move from one to the next to find the answer. They're just going to move in some sort of order. So what I tend to do, so in this activity, there are 15 problem cards. And so they have a graph to analyze and answer a question that requires them to make a prediction or decision based upon the scatter plot. So they're going to use a trend line to do that. And I have several other versions of scavenger hunt, but they all work this way. So in this case, I'll have these 15 different problem cards posted up around the room, and they will solve the problem, and they'll find the answer in their card set that they have in their hand, which looks like this. And then I will just usually have them create a recording sheet where for each problem as they solve it, they'll record the answer and they'll record the letter that goes with the card. So you'll see on these cards, there's little letters in the corners. So when they're finished, if they're reading the cards, the answers from problem number 1 through problem number 15, it's going to spell a self-checking phrase. So that's helpful for you as the teacher and for your kids, I guess, as well. And sometimes I'll even throw distractor cards into the set, and so then it doesn't spell anything, and they know that they made a mistake. So that's another little trick that I use. But instead of having the problem card also have an answer at the bottom, that's the answer to another problem. When you do that, and in a traditional around the room activity, they're looking for the answer to this problem on some other posted card around the room. And so sometimes the room can get a bit chaotic as kids move from one side of the room to the other side of the room and all around in kind of a mixed up way. So the reason that I do it this way, where I give them the answers on cards instead of driving the answers around the room as well, is that it allows you to send your groups to a particular problem card to start, and then you can just have them move in clockwise or counterclockwise order, and it creates a movement that is a little less chaotic in your room. So I wanted to simulate that same experience, but in a digital way. So you'll see here, as you look on my slide sorter on the left, all of these problem cards, while they'll show up when I'm looking at them, you'll see down here it says this slide is skipped when presenting, and you'll see this little eyeball with a cross out on it on my slide sorter. And that's because I've set these slides up to where if I'm in present mode, so like if I was just showing the activity, it would skip these slides. You wouldn't see them if I was just presenting it normally. And that's because I want the kids to use this activity in an interactive way. So on this first slide where I have all the answer cards, each one of these answer cards is hyperlinked to another slide. So this one is linked to slide 3, and this one is linked to slide 4, and so forth. So you just have to be careful that one, you get everything linked up to where if that, no matter what card they started on, they would end up making it to all of the problem cards. And you also don't want the slide that it's linked to be the slide that it's the answer for. So, because then they're not gonna go anywhere. What I want is after they can click on any card to start with. So in this case, it's gonna take them to the first problem card. They're gonna go here to slide 3. They're gonna solve this problem, and then they're gonna use the home key here. This little icon is linked back to slide 2, which is the slide with all the answers. And they're gonna go back to the answers, and they're gonna find, okay, so what do I think is the answer to that question? And then they're going to click that answer, and it's going to lead them to another problem, so that it's kind of like the around the room traditional way. And so to link one of these to a slide, you should go up here to the insert link in the ribbon up here of the different menu choices. You could also go to the insert menu if you wanted to, and it's down here under link. Or you could use the shortcut key if you knew it. But I generally will just go up here to the link, and then it gives you a place to link it. So I'm going to click that out so you could see. It says you can attach a link here. So I could attach this to another place on the web, for example, or I can link it to a slide in this presentation. And then when I click the down arrow, it brings up all of the slides in the slideshow. And I wanted that one to link to 3. And then I have to make sure I hit apply so that it's truly linked. So each one of these answer cards is linked to a new problem card. So each of these is the answers to a problem, but not the one that it's linking to. And then I created a finished slide so that there was a way for it to be finished. But in this particular activity, I don't have an ending slide. It's going to take them here. So it takes them, let me relink that as a matter of fact, so that you can see, because this particular, there it goes, slide 18, it's linked to. And then, so that finished one just takes them to a reflection slide that gives them some directions about things that they should be doing in their own Google Drive or in their Mouth Notebook. And you can edit that slide. So to show you how this works, I'm gonna go back up here to the top. And what's in present mode, what the students will see is the first slide, the second slide, and then the last slide is not hidden as well. So if you were just gonna present it, those are the only 3 slides that would show up. So if I assign it to students in Google Classroom, I'm not actually gonna attach the activity, because if I attach the activity in Google Classroom, it's not going to default to the present mode. It's going to default to allow them to edit the PowerPoint, and I don't want them to do that because they lose the activity. So when you assign it in Google Classroom, which you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to go to Google Classroom, and I need to change who I am here. When I go into Google Classroom to assign it, I'm going to make sure that what I do is I'm going to create this assignment, and I'm going to put a link to the assignment here in the instructions instead of adding, because what I want is to force it into the present mode. So when I go to present from the beginning, then that's what I want it to look like for the students. And I can do that by changing the URL to force it to present. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And so then when they click this link, it's gonna automatically be in present mode. And that's how I'm gonna assign it in Google Classroom. I'm not gonna add here, I'm just gonna leave it like this. And then each of them can work it. And because it's self-checking and they have some reflections to do, I'm not really worried about any of this other stuff. It's just the benefit of the activity. So back here, so you can see what it looks like, I'm going to show it in present mode. So they're going to, and I'm sorry, I don't have my whole screen shown right now, but you'll get the picture. So they're instructed here to number their document, and they can use paper or they can use a Google Doc, however you want to do it, and you can change these directions. But they're going to go through these problems. So at first I'm going to start just with that one. I'm going to solve the problem, and then when I think I have an answer, I'm going to go home and I'm going to find something that I think works, and then I'm going to click the answer to that problem. And so then I'm going to solve this problem, and I'm going to say, okay, I think it's about 3,000. I'm going to go back home and I'm going to pick the next answer, and so forth. And it's going to send me around the room, so to speak, virtually, where I'm solving each of these problems and I'm going back home and I'm finding the answer. And so that's how you create a basic scavenger hunt, interactive scavenger hunt, or around the room activity in Google Slides. So you were just going to have your problem slides all hidden, and then you're going to have one slide that has all the answer cards on it. And I just actually used images where I clipped pictures of the actual problem answer cards, because if you, like this one down here, it was kind of problematic because I used a shape with a text box inside, and so I'm linking it to the whole thing, but if you don't click it just right, then it doesn't work nicely. So I use actual picture cards and then just put them in boxes, and I made the borders look all pretty, and then just assigned each to link to a problem slide. And so that's how you make an interactive scavenger hunt or around the room activity. Thanks for listening, and I hope that you tune back in soon.